So hello my friends, Devon Lennox here, PhotographyPX. In today's video, I'm going to show you guys how to make moody black and white images in Adobe Photoshop. All right, so here we are in Adobe Photoshop. Let me guys show you the before of the image so you guys can see exactly what the original image looks like. Put that over there. This is the original image. A lot of color, very saturated, totally my style. I don't normally shoot black and whites, but eventually I do want to go out and do more street and journalistic and more candid type photography. So it's been something I've been exploring little by little. And I do want to shoot more black and whites in studio. So I have been making presets and things of that nature to kind of slowly tailor my style to start shooting in that medium. But ultimately, I do want to show you guys how to go from that to this. Yes, you will see her leg change a little bit. The photo is actually different. I loaded up the wrong TIFF image. I don't know where this original photo is, but yeah, so that's the only difference between the images. So I do want to say as a caveat, I did use in Adobe Lightroom, let me hit preset or reset over here. I did use Gloria, which is one of our free downloadable Lightroom color grading presets. If you wish to download that, the description will be in the link will be in the description down below. It's just one of our presets for Lightroom when it comes to black and whites and some other things for fashion. But you're welcome to download the fashion series. But I did use Gloria, which converted this to the black and white that you guys see, and then I made some adjustments in Adobe Photoshop. So first and foremost, you will need to convert the image to black and white. I will show you guys really super briefly on how to do that specifically. You would essentially turn on this, you would go over here, and then you would go to black and white, and then you'd make adjustments to these sliders that are here. I did that in Adobe Lightroom. I've also released a preset pack, like I was saying, on that because I prefer doing these kind of color adjustments in Adobe Lightroom over Photoshop. So I don't have presets quite yet on how to do this in Adobe Photoshop. But suffice it to say, you guys will need to convert it to a black and white, and then we can add on some of the things that you see here. Nonetheless, it will work. The group that I'm showing you here will work. It's just that these colors down here are a little bit different with the highlights and shadows. Only difference. But I will walk you guys through what I did. So I did record a previous video on how to add noise to an image, and we're actually going to go ahead and do that right now. If you haven't seen that tutorial, I would definitely encourage you on how to do that. I'm just going to kind of just knock it out really quick. So first thing first, we're actually going to just make a new layer, and we're going to add some noise. And why we're doing this is because at the end of the day, when you want to do black and whites, our goal is really to emulate film. That's really where the black and white is the most true. We shoot in a digital era. We are using digital cameras here, unless you are currently still shooting on 35mm and you're using film, which is not the majority of people. But if you do shoot that, then you can get this straight out of camera. You don't need to do any adjustments. But for those of us that are using digital cameras, we have to kind of replicate this in Photoshop, Lightroom, Affinity Photo, etc. So to do that, one of the most important things to do here is actually adding noise, because without noise, you get that too sharp digital look. It basically is just like too sharp, it's too clean, it's too crisp. We need to add some noise to kind of add a little bit of grit and some grain and some basically ununiformity, if that's a word. So we're going to do that by adding a new layer, and then we're going to add a noise filter. Again, I've done a tutorial on this if you want more explanation. And then we're going to set the amount anywhere from 5 to 11%. Make sure the distribution is set to uniform or Gaussian. It depends how much you want. If you set it to uniform, do set the amount to a maximum of 11%. If you set it to Gaussian, I would say probably 6, maybe 7. Depends on your image. And make sure you're setting down here monochromatic, making sure that's checked, because we are using a black and white image. We don't want this to basically have color specks. You'll see if I zoom in here that there's a lot of color specks. We want to make sure monochromatic is selected, so it's just gradations of black and white and medium gray. So the first thing was adding noise. From there, I'm actually going to add a mask, and the reason why I'm doing this because the background gets too noisy. I don't want the background to get super noisy, especially since we're shooting on seamless. It just looks kind of weird. So I'm going to add a mask. I'm setting my opacity on my brush to 25% and flow to 25% so that I can gradually build up with every stroke. So I'm just going to kind of stroke out a little bit the background and just get rid of some of this noise out here, little by little here. And I'm gonna do this really quick. I'm not gonna be super clinical about this, but ultimately I'm just gonna do this super fast, just so we have a general idea on what is happening. Okay. And you can see the before and after. We're just kind of cleaning up the background to not have it be as grainy, but still have a little bit more texture than what it would have otherwise. Okay, so that's first thing. From there, there's a couple of things what we have to do. We need to add more contrast to the image, and then we also need to basically add a kind of a color overlay. So basically what we're gonna do, we're gonna go to brightness and contrast. We're gonna add a little bit more contrast, pull the contrast down to about 10. That's a really good working point there. And then you can see the before and after, add a little bit more contrast. Okay, from there, we're gonna go into curves, and we're just going to manually dot in just a little bit, go down here and go up here, just to add a little bit more contrast. And then I'm also going to turn our grain down. I think 100% is just a little bit too much. So we're gonna do 65, add a little bit more grain. And I'm actually gonna close Lightroom. My computer's gonna make a lot of fan noise here. Okay, and then the last thing we're gonna do is we're going to add a color balance. The main reason why we're doing this here is because it allows us to basically add a color overlay. Every single type of film that you shoot on has a certain kind of way that they render colors. So we're kind of replicating that by using the color balance to add a certain type of tint that is pleasing for the look that we want, whether it be more green or maybe a little bit more red. I made it a little bit more on the green side, so I dropped these down to basically -3 each. And then we can group that, and I'll show you guys the before and after. So that, just add a little bit more contrast, added that little bit of an overlay. And there you go. I actually had both of them on, and that was the original. And then that right there is basically how you, the working points on how you make your black and whites a little bit more moody. You add grain, you add more contrast, you play with the curves to add shadows and highlights, and then you also do a color balance to add a certain color that you want. You're just welcome to kind of just double tap any of these and add more contrast if you'd like to add more contrast. And then, you know, go back over here into the color balance, and you can, you know, add more color, make it totally green or red or whatever you like. But that's ultimately how you make more of a moody black and white image. You can see the before and after difference there, significantly punchier and harder, and it's just edgier. So those are the fundamental steps. You're welcome to download our Lightroom presets if you'd like. That will be in the description down below. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you found the contents of today's video insightful and added value to you. If you're new here, please consider subscribing if you haven't done so already. Also, leave us a like and a comment in the description down below. Let us know if I overlooked something or I missed something covered in today's video. This is Devon Lennox. You know where to find us. PhotographyPX.com.